Isn't it amazing how sometimes just a handful of words can be the key that unlocks an entire literary masterpiece? Well, today, we are diving into one of the most blistering satires ever written to see how one single phrase does exactly that.
So let's start with this question. What is it that gives a few simple words so much weight? I mean, how can they possibly carry the burden of history and class and this biting social commentary all at once? That's the mystery we're going to solve together.
And here it is. This is our clue. Persons of quality and fortune. It's a quote from Jonathan Swift's absolutely savage satire, A Modest Proposal. Now, on the surface, it just sounds polite, right? Kind of formal. But hiding right under that polished surface is a masterclass in literary attack, and we are going to take it apart piece by piece.
Okay, so first things first. Let's look at the specific words Swift chose here. And believe me, this is no accident. Every single syllable is on purpose. This is about way more than just what the words mean. It's about the world they come from and the power they signal.
This gets us to this idea of high-register diction. Just think of that super formal, kind of detached language you'd find in political pamphlets or legal documents from Swift's era. Words like persons, quality, fortune. They're so impersonal, so aristocratic. What Swift is doing here is basically putting on a linguistic costume. He's adopting the voice of the ruling class so he can criticize them from the inside out.
And you can see that strategy right here. Instead of just saying the rich or the landlords, blunt terms, Swift goes for this polite, roundabout phrase. It's a euphemism. And what are euphemisms for? They soften things. They wrap up an ugly truth in some really elegant wrapping paper, hiding the exploitation behind a very respectable-looking facade.
Let's keep going, because it builds from here. This phrase, it does more than just describe a group of people. It actually builds a wall between them and everybody else. It's language being used as a social divider, drawing a really clear line in the sand. So the fancy term for this is social deixis, which is really just a way of saying that words can point to social status. In the world of A Modest Proposal, this phrase is like a giant flashing neon sign that screams, "These are the people who matter," which of course implies that everyone else, the poor, the starving, they don't even get a proper name. They're invisible.
And look at how it breaks down. Up at the top, you've got the valued group. Our persons of quality and fortune. They get named, they're honored, they're powerful. But then below them, you have the devalued, the poor. They're just counted. They're unnamed. They're reduced to being a problem or maybe a resource. Swift is showing us that this class divide isn't just about money. It's baked right into the way they speak.
Okay, now we are getting to the absolute heart of the satire, and this is where Swift's genius is just so sharp. He creates this huge, shocking disconnect between the polite language he's using and the absolutely horrific reality it's describing.
So, on one hand, you've got this label. It sounds so respectful, doesn't it? So honorable. Swift, playing his narrator, is pretending to hold this group in the absolute highest esteem.
And then the mask drops. He reveals who these people actually are in his proposal. They are the target market for eating the children of the poor. The collision between that polite, gentle label and this monstrous idea, it creates what you could call a stylistic shock. It's totally designed to jolt you, the reader, awake to the cruelty that's hiding just under the surface of their society. Even the word persons is incredibly clever. Notice he doesn't say people or individuals. Persons is such an abstract, almost legal-sounding term, and that perfectly mirrors how the elites see the world, not as a bunch of human beings with names and feelings, but as abstract categories, as economic units. The language itself shows you how morally detached they are from all the suffering.
So how does all this come together as a satirical weapon? Well, this brings us to the real masterstroke of Swift's entire essay. He manages to deliver this absolutely brutal condemnation without ever really pointing a finger. It's brilliant.
So here's the method. First, he puts on their linguistic costume. He adopts their language. Second, he takes their cold economic logic and just follows it all the way to its most extreme, and yet horribly logical conclusion, cannibalism. And third, by doing this, he lets them condemn themselves. It's their own worldview, their own way of talking and thinking that leads directly to this monstrous proposal.
And this is really the whole point. Swift's use of persons of quality and fortune is a stylistic act of ironic imitation. He's basically pulling back the curtain to show all of us how polite, sophisticated language can be used to make monstrous cruelty seem perfectly fine, maybe even respectable. And that brings us to our final thought here. In Swift's masterpiece, the oppression of the poor isn't just a topic he's writing about. No. By mastering the language of the powerful, he shows us that oppression is something that is literally spoken into existence. The elegant words themselves become the tools that make the cruelty possible. And that is a chilling idea that's just as relevant today as it was almost 300 years ago.